Welcome to Exposeco podcast. This is Brian. I'm here with my co-host Paul. Paul, how are you tonight?
Doing great. Doing great. Excited for the night.
Nice. Okay. Well, today we're diving into something that we've never done before. We're going to be talking about one of our followers, those who follow us on social media. He's been asking some good questions. It's Tim from Garden City, Michigan, and he's objected on a few different platforms just to the point that he believes that we are anti small business. And so I thought tonight this would be a great time to dive into this question. Are we anti small business? We're being pretty explicitly pro consumer. And he's not the only one who's asked us this question. So we wanted to dedicate this episode tonight to Tim. Thank you for being a part of Exposeco podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. We always enjoy getting feedback from our followers and different people out in the marketplace. Just want to make sure that we're conveying ourselves accurately and we're not steering what we're trying to do wrong. The people that we're trying to help out, we don't want to steer them in the wrong direction, think that we're pro massive corporations taking over small mom and pops. Yeah, so I think this is a great time because I think it's very much the opposite of what we believe in at Exposeco. Being a contractor myself for 17 years and being a small business, and even after that 17 years was relatively considered a small business, not a large corporation, before we got out of the contracting industry. Realized a lot about small businesses and the benefits to small businesses over the years and the differences from small businesses to large businesses. The thing about large businesses is they are going to project a lot more of a security to the consumer, and they're going to have a lot more polished sales skills. They're going to a lot of times be a lot more expensive as well. They also usually have a large marketing budget to go along with it. So it's not uncommon that a lot of consumers just fall into the trap of getting 3 bids from 3 large companies, and they end up overpaying because they are only getting proposals from 3 really large corporations that they're all spending significant amount of money on marketing and also overhead expenses and so forth. And us at Exposeco, that's why we exist. We exist to let the consumer know that you don't have to accept that. You don't have to necessarily know that there is small businesses out there that will give you a way better deal and do a way better job than these larger companies, because we have the experience and the expertise to be able to point you in the right directions to say your proposals are way out of line. You should probably look at going with a smaller mom and pop shop. That's part of our actually advice in our process, is that when we see a project that is costing a lot more than we expect it to cost and think it should cost, based on our analysis and our expertise of what things cost in the marketplace, we're able to point you, the consumer, in the direction of a small business to a lot of times save a significant amount of money, because you're not paying for the overhead expenses and the millions of dollars you're spending in marketing to capture those clients. So really, I mean, us at Exposeco, we're here to make sure that you're getting the right deal. And I mean, am I saying today that there's not large companies out there that will give you a good deal? No, I'm not saying that. But my experience in the marketplace is that the larger companies are usually more expensive. And, when I come across a couple of proposals and they're all from large companies and they're all seem to be a lot more expensive than a project should be, we're going to give the advice to, hey, you should probably call a smaller mom and pop and get a proposal from them to do a comparison and point them in that direction to see if that's an option that they want to go and save some money. So with that being said, I think big business has some advantages. There's also a lot of advantages to mom and pop small businesses that take a personal interest into your project and you're not just a number. And quite a bit of times there's a lot of savings that comes along with that as well, because they are smaller. So that's a quick explanation as far as our view on small business and big business. But like we said, there's no exact written rule to everybody's situation. There's different companies that fit with different projects, and yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
People tend to think of big business like Walmart, Amazon, Home Depot. You think that those big retailers that can buy things in bulk, so therefore you get cheaper prices than, say, like your average corner store plumbing store or whatever, because they buy in bulk. But how is that not the case in heating and air conditioning? You are, by choosing to go with a bigger vendor, oftentimes actually paying more rather in the retail market. When you go with someone bigger, it's oftentimes you're paying less. So, do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. In the retail side of things, obviously businesses have buying power. Well, on the contracting side, that is the same as well. Like big companies are able to buy equipment at a lower price than these mom and pop because they're buying so much equipment. But also the mom and pops are in the day to day, they're running a lot more lean, meaning they have a lot less people that are in their office space. A lot of times the owners out there actually selling the jobs. They don't have multiple support staff for different layers of quality control, management, human resources. A lot of times there's a lot of hats being worn by one or two people in those businesses, which makes those businesses, they run a lot with a lot less overhead. And in turn, they find themselves not having to have to charge as much, or just by the way they run their business, that's what they feel is a fair market value for their services. Now, when you get into the big business stuff, a lot of times they have investors to answer to make sure that they hit certain profit margins. There's a lot less personalized. There's not as much personal care going into your pricing, into your project. It's more of a, what can we get it for, the most we can get it for, and let's do the job. Not to say that big businesses don't do a good job, because my experience is these larger companies, they're hit or miss. Some of them are fantastic. They have amazing training for their employees that small businesses don't have, where you have highly skilled people being able to perform the services in your home because the big business has been able to invest in their employees, and smaller businesses find it hard to do that. But there's also small time companies that are family operated, that the son or the daughter or whoever is being groomed up to take over the business has been doing the job, and they care about it. They know their names on it, and they do a fantastic job doing the installation or the repair, whatever you're having them hired for. So it's, like I said, it's never a one size fits all type of situation, but you've got to really be able to understand that there's a significant difference in those two situations. And a lot of times it can be a big financial difference too. So that's why we're here to guide you to make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of by big business. More rare, but small business sometimes does that too. So there's sharks everywhere in the water when it comes to contracting. That's why we exist. I knew it from when I was in contracting. I saw it all the time. People were engaging in different sales tactics that were frankly high pressure, greasy. And that's why we started this, is because we're passionate about making sure that you have experience on your side, and it's not just a let's trust a salesman that's in my home right now. When we get down to it, right, there's no exact answer whether we're pro small business or pro big business, but I can tell you what, we're skeptical about all business. And if you've got 3 big business bids, we're going to suggest you get a 4th bid from a small business, and you need to mix that in. You need to get a little bit of everything. You need to have an idea of what you like and what you want, what type of level of service you're going to get. And we're going to help you make that decision and make sure that whoever you choose is actually doing right by you and not overcharging you.
That's so key, is we aren't pro big business. We're not pro small business per se, because that's not what we're trying to be as a company. We're trying to be pro consumer. We're trying to be pro homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means choosing a big business, then that's what that means. And if it means going with the small guy, it's just on a case by case basis. But I know for a fact from your past and in your 20 plus years of being in the industry, that you do care deeply about small businesses, because the reason why you're in this industry is because you got your start as a small business owner, and you grew a business, and you, even after your business became a big business, there was other people who are part of your business. You helped them to get their businesses started. And so you've been there you've been the small guy, you've been the big guy. Now you're in the firm corner of the consumer, the homeowner. And I think that's kind of interesting that you bring that perspective and you're saying it doesn't really matter if they're big or small, like they could be a shark either way. And I guess one of the things that we want to do one day in our podcast is have the war stories. I'll tell you that the only time which I was genuinely stolen from in a heating air conditioning situation was from a small business owner. They asked for the money up front for the purchase of an air conditioning unit. They needed it in order to get the unit, and that's what they said. And we trusted this person. They gave us the best price. So it was like we saved a few grand going with this small business owner. But the guy took our money and hightailed it. He left. Well, he did part of one of the job that we had, but the other part he just ghosted us on. And since he was a small business owner, he just let his business go. He was gone, and we were left with our hands like in our pockets with nothing to do. That's kind of one of the dangers of the possibility of that. Whereas in a big business, you do have a little bit more leverage because that there's staying power in that company is not going to likely ghost you completely, but maybe they will.
Yeah, so there's risk in everything, but a large company, they can have really poor service and extremely frustrating service where they may seem like they're ghosting you and they just actually just have such disorganization. I've seen that, I've experienced that where you have a large company, yeah, they don't collect anything up front, but they're terrible about returning their phone calls. The people that work there aren't necessarily team players. They're not happy about where they're working, so they don't really care as much about the customers of that company. So I mean, yeah, that's something for sure. That's where I go back to my Exposeco tip of the day, where you don't pay your contractor up front. I mean, it's so crucial. I'm going through a war story right now, but I'll share that with on a later podcast about something that I'm going through right now as far as paying some funds up front on a job, and it wasn't even for air conditioning. We'll see how the story ends. So I'll be excited to tell that one once it's done. But yeah, I mean, the small business guys, you pay people up front. There's no incentive for them to be prompt unless they're worried about getting a bad review or a bad reputation. So I stand by my comments when it comes to paying your contractor when you're satisfied with the project. You know what? The majority of small business owners, it's part of a business to be able to get a line of credit or whatever it takes to be able to purchase the materials to do the project. And a lot of times on these residential projects, the project is only a turnaround of 3 to 5 days. So if they don't have the credit to be able to purchase the materials for the job and then pay that credit off with the money that you give them for a satisfied installation, I would kind of second guess as far as the quality of the company if they're not that organized. So goes to say, like, small businesses, yes, you have to start somewhere. Believe me, I started, it was just me in a van by myself doing service jobs, and I was taking on the jobs that I could take on. I wasn't getting too big for my britches. I was actually doing projects that I could afford to do. And from the get-go, I did not collect money up front. I literally worked for somebody, saved up enough money to start the business. When I started the business, that means I had several $1,000s in an account to be able to pay for material up front before I did the jobs for these people. And what that did is it instilled trust in my customer base that, hey, I don't need your money until I'm completely done and you're completely satisfied. So I'm going to provide a service. I'm going to provide a great service. And that's putting a lot of confidence in consumers. And the majority of small businesses, there's an argument to saying consumers can be difficult at times. And that's a true statement as well. I mean, I was on the contracting side. There is, you're dealing with people all the time, and you're dealing with a very intricate situation a lot of times. And sometimes there can be where customers are just, they're hard to deal with. But if you are a good small business, you do what it takes to make them happy at the end of the day. And you know what? You work with those people and you get the job done, you do it right, and you make sure that you do them right, and you get a good review at the end of the day, and you move on to the next one, and you keep performing. You treat people how you want to be treated. In the end, I mean, the fact that being not pro small business is, I just don't understand so much the comment, other than the fact if he's regarding the deposits is a must for a small business. I would refute that and say if you're a small business and you require to have a significant amount of money up front, I would reevaluate, why do you need that significant amount of money up front? If you're an established small business, there's many means to be able to make sure that the finances are there in order to start a project and finish it prior to getting paid. Obviously, you can take progress payments, but they need to be legitimately tied to a scope of work that's been completed. So like if they show up and they do 90% of the job and they have to come back for putting a piece in that is a special order item, but the air conditioner is working, I mean, I have no qualms at paying them 80% of the job, giving them 80% of the job that you agreed upon, give them all that money and leave 20% for them for when they finish. And that's just smart. If you pay them 100% and all of a sudden it gets really busy and it's the middle of summer, I mean, you live in Chandler. If they started your job in springtime and it was mild out, and then all of a sudden a heat wave hit and you have paid them 100%, do you think you're going to be high on their priority list to come out and finish your job? No. I hate to say it, but the contractors a lot of times are not the most organized people, and they're going to go after the money. So the majority of the time, I mean, I'm not saying everybody's money hungry. There's good people everywhere. There's also not. So that's why we exist. We know that we've heard and experienced the horror stories, seen them firsthand, what it's done to people. And that's why we exist. We exist to protect you, the consumer, to make sure, look, let's just be smart about it. Let's save everybody a headache and everybody wins.
Everybody wins. I love that. You know, from the business standpoint, a lot of what I've seen the contractors try to do is they want to capture your business. So they're glad to get that contract signed. If they can get 50% or 25% up front so that they guarantee you have skin in the game, they will. You don't have to do that. You know, people don't realize how much power they have. Contractors will do a lot in order to earn the customer's business. I think that's one thing I'm learning from you and your experience. But, you know, a lot of times they'll start a project, and if you've paid a lot or a significant amount, they'll start your project and then they'll disappear for 2 weeks. And because they've started that project, you're on the hook, but then they're gone. They're capturing other business in the other areas. And then when they have a moment and they're not starting new gigs or whatever, they'll work on yours. And I've seen that time and time again in my own personal life. They want to capture the business, so they'll tear apart the floor that they're going to be tiling. And then where are they for the next 4 days? You know, my house is in a construction zone and they're not working. So I think that that's something that we're trying to make people aware of. Like, this is a real thing that's going on. And the reason why you definitely don't want to shell out money until that job is done, you want to make the contractor kind of feel the need to be on top of the project, which they're guaranteeing that they're going to do, like keep them honest.
I mean, I've dealt with large companies that have tried to collect money up front, and I've told them, no, I won't pay until you guys are 100% done. I mean, the job's not a long job, so it shouldn't be a big worry to you. I have no problem. I'll pay you the day that it's done. I will write you a check. It'll be all good. And so, but I've had it where large companies, they become flaky after they get paid. I mean, it's large and small. I wouldn't say it's the rule that people are flaky after they get paid, but it's also not the exception either. So there's a good chance that if somebody's asking for money up front, that should be a red flag to you. To me, that's a red flag. If somebody asks for money up front, it's the people that don't ask for money up front that I'm not skeptical of at all. Because to me, they have no worry about getting paid at the end of the day because they're going to do right by me anyways.
Yeah.
It's the guys that need to have money up front are the ones that I'm worried about. Like, why do you need this money? And am I ever going to see you again after I give it to you? That's why we exist, right? Is we're protecting consumers from those people that will ghost you. I mean, we're literally here to make sure that you don't get taken advantage of. Price wise, you get what you need as far as product and quality. And then on top of it, we're making sure that the job gets done.
There's probably a whole conversation we could have from the contractor's side, how they would protect themselves from a homeowner who decides not to pay or doesn't,
Mhm.
like, gets the job or hires them, but then doesn't really have the means to pay for the job. There's other protections that contractors can use.
Absolutely. There's simple protections. I know California, I mean, you can put a lien on somebody's house. So, and it's very easy to do that. You can literally put a lien on somebody's house, which that means if you don't pay, then you can't sell your house, you can't refinance your house, and the bank knows that, hey, there's a creditor that is knocking on our door telling us that you owe money, and we can't do anything with your loan. We can't do anything with the papers on your house until this lien is paid off. So that is, from a homeowner's perspective, it can be a scary thing if you get a lien put on your house. Obviously, from a professional standpoint, it's not as big of a deal as you'd think, but we can get into liens another day. But they definitely, if you're ever trying to, I don't suggest anyone ever stiff a contractor. If a contractor has not done right by you, I would definitely try to work it out through means of arbitration or something like that. It's just, nobody wins by taking advantage of those situations. And a lot of times just sitting down and actually having a sit down conversation with somebody will work things out significantly and for the better. So yeah, we at Exposeco don't want you guys to have to get in that situation. And literally with proper pre-planning and just vetting of companies and proposals and strategies, we almost eliminate the possibility of that happening just by experience and knowing what that looks like, and being able to see the red flags and know, and to be able to steer you in the right direction. We're strictly here to make sure that you're protected. We're not on the contractor side of things at all. It's not that we don't care about contractors. It's just that we're here to look out for your best interest. That's why we're hired. We're only paid by
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So that was a great question and conversation started by Tim from Garden City, Michigan. If you are a listener and you are not on our social media pages, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on X. We would love it if you would join our conversation. If you have thoughts or comments or questions, we would love it if you would post those, and maybe they'll become a topic of conversation in a future podcast. Paul, this has been an interesting conversation. At first, it kind of was confusing, but you clarified so much for us tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Awesome.